Good evening, everyone, and welcome to World of Sport TV. I have Billy in the background, and I have Greg, who is eager to get on and answer all the difficult questions that he's ready for. I'm really pleased he's come on because I'm a member of the Trust myself, and I would like to know a little bit more about the work that they're going to be doing for us, the fans, this year coming up. So without any further ado, let's get the intro out the way, and then let's get them in. Yes, I need a new intro. Can't have Rafa on there anymore, can we? Hello, Billy.
Hello, Baz. How are you, mate?
I'm good, you?
Yeah, excellent, mate. Excellent.
Brilliant. Let's bring in the star attraction. Greg, good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Hi, Greg.
Yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good, good. He's ready and waiting. He's got his large glass of wine already. He's started drinking, so this could get fun if he's had too many.
It's Friday night.
It's Friday, yeah. Not for me, unfortunately. This is my Monday because I'm doing 3 days in a row and 2 nights. So, unfortunately, this is my Monday. But lucky you. So, Billy, over to you. This is obviously your coup. You know Greg personally, and you've managed to convince him to come on our little channel. So, I'll let you fire away with the first few questions.
Right. Hi, Greg. Hi, mate. How you doing? Good to see you. It's been a while. Before we go any further, Greg, we've only met once, and that was after Rafa's.
Related.
Yes, it is, and it was. I believe it was Rafa's first game. Am I correct? I think it was, wasn't it?
It was Leicester City.
Leicester City away. Greg got stuck in the middle of the country with nowhere to go, so I put him up for the night. We
offer me a bed to a man in need that would have otherwise had to sleep in a train station and wait for the next train home.
So wait a minute. You look like Ed Sheeran, and you've got the Ed Sheeran story as well.
Well, I certainly can't sing. I can tell you that. But there was a few on that one. That's funny. A few years ago, Ed Sheeran was in Shearer's box, and it was on the telly. Right. And my phone's never gone so wild. But I can't sing, and I wish I had his bank balance.
I bet, yeah.
Oh, firstly, congratulations on the re-election. Obviously, the Trust's democratically elected process, and good on you for that. Some new board members have come on board. Has there been a difference in how things are going within the Trust?
Look, it's a really interesting time. So, because we've grown, I was lucky enough to be asked by Alex Hurst to join the board back when he decided to effectively relaunch the Trust and bump it up again and get it going, and I've worked with Alex and the other board members. Some have come and gone over the time and done their bit, and we're now at a time where we've established a really credible movement, a really credible supporters trust that is recognised and influential throughout the country, really, and throughout football. And a testament to that is the fact that I got to give evidence in a one-on-one session, myself and Alex, with Tracy Crouch as part of the fan-led review. I think only 2 Premier League clubs got that opportunity. So we've built it up under Alex's brilliant leadership. He stepped down from chair to focus on the pledge, and now he's stepped down from the board, having more than served his time and done his bit. And whoever's involved is always just a custodian of the organisation. And it's my job now with the new board to then take it forward and take it to that next level. So we've got the pledge scheme up and running. We've got a functioning, credible organisation that's respected. So now we're sitting down with the new board over the next few weeks and thinking about what is our plan for the next year. How are we going to do that? How are we going to build on the magnificent platform that we've got today? I'm quite proud to be elected with the most votes. And the reason I say that is because my statement, my mandate, my ticket was based on keeping going what we've been doing over the last 2 and a bit years. So that's a clear mandate from the members to keep it up, keep it going, keep standing up for Newcastle fans, and our members as much as we can. So yeah, really interesting time. Ideas banding about. I've sat down one-on-one with most of the new board members now as well. Was up in Newcastle for a week last week. For those who don't know, I live and work predominantly in London, but Newcastle is home and like to get back when I can. And I was back for a week, so did that. We had a big get together as one on together as a board on online Microsoft Teams, and we'll have some more meetings in the coming weeks, and then we'll set out and we'll put out there in public, what we're trying to achieve, how we're going to try and achieve it, our vision, almost our strategy, and our plan to do that. And there are a number of challenges. This version of Newcastle United is a difficult one to get along with. But yeah, really interesting time, and also great. We expanded the board up to 12, so the biggest board we ever had, because there's more to do than ever before. Really to push things forward. So I am really looking forward to getting that going and really pushing on.
Comment there from Lee. Evening, Greg. Tell us about the pledge. How's it's been 6 months or so running. How's it going?
It's been 4 months worth of 4 months worth of payments.
Is it 4 months?
So it might seem like that, but yeah, we launched on the 8th of April. And then obviously that goes almost approaching £150,000, which is a magnificent achievement. Really, really proud of that and the work that's gone into that. It was 2.5-3 years in the making, really carefully thought out. We spent time up with the guys at Hearts, learning from them. Board delegation went up and visited them and learned how they'd done business. We've talked to all sorts of different supporters, trusts, and people involved in this type of world about how to go about this type of activity. And so, yeah, it's great. It's a long-term project. It's only just started, and it's made a brilliant start. So to have that there, we need to build on it. We need to get the message, particularly offline, and we need to keep it growing. So if you're listening, tell your mates, tell your family. But every little helps there. The more regular pledges we get, the better. But look, it's a long-term plan. I kind of regret that at the time we talked about 1% when we were asked to put a figure on it, but there is no figure on it. And there's so many different things that the pledge can become. It can be an insurance policy. So say we get relegated, God forbid, nobody wants that, and we don't come back first time. And say the takeover doesn't happen, Newcastle gets stuck. The club starts costing Mike Ashley £5 million a week just to keep the lights on. What's he going to do there? Is he going to cut and run like Ellis Shaw? Is he going to pump it in? What's he going to do? So we could be, worst case scenario, in that position, hopefully, to pick it up. Sunderland fans could have had that if they'd have been organised. And I think they recognise that now. Because the people who buy football clubs when they're in that situation are absolute chancers, aren't they? So we've seen that. And then there's the other side. There's a couple of other sides of things as well. So obviously, we're all hoping this takeover goes ahead. But it's taken a long time now, but we're still hoping. But say it doesn't. What do? Who's buying the club? Why, in a couple of years' time, couldn't it be the trust, whoever is running the trust, with a fund, 10 million, maybe? Hearts raised over 10 million pounds, right? Why couldn't it be the trust with 10 million pounds talking to potential buyers, pulling together a consortium and doing a deal? Because that people like Peter Kenyon try that, and Peter Kenyon doesn't have enough money to buy Newcastle United. So why couldn't it be the supporters doing that? And that's another positive. And there's so many, hopefully a really ambitious owner would come in and say, have a percentage of voting rights, or have ownership, have influence, let's work together. And we don't want your money, we don't need it, give it to charity. And then fundamentally, also, the other point there as well, and I'm going off on one, is that if it doesn't work, if it fails, the very, very worst thing we've done is raise a lot of money for some Northeast charities that really, really need it.
Yeah. The one thing I like what you said there was trying to get a say in the club, because obviously that at the moment is, with Mike Ashley, impossible. He's asked for transparency from the Premier League, but yet we as fans have been asking over 14 years for transparency on what's going on in our football club. there's a few little changes I would like to see in football in general, and I'm wondering if you guys would pick this sort of thing up. I believe now, in this day and age, for all football clubs, there should be never non-disclosed fees on transfers. Every fan should know how much a player costs and how much a player leaves for, especially since we're the ones going to pay that money to that game. We should know what funds are available at the start of the season, what funds are available in January, and the club's finances at that point in the season, not a year ago when they publish them to when they need to. Like Mike Ashley's got this lovely thing of always publishing them late as well. That sort of thing needs to stop in my eyes. We need to know as fans that our club's been run properly, and we need to be able to see these figures, because all we'll end up doing is arguing online, don't we? Oh yeah, but we bought Joe Linton for 30 million, but it says undisclosed fee. So it could have been 40, 45, 50, 55 for all we know, because you never really find out the real figure until all this stuff comes out when he publishes the finances to the Premier League. Is that something you could get involved with and say, to the FA in places like that, saying, look, we need more transparency ourselves. You're asking for it. We also want that as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas where you need transparency, and I think it's more than just transparency. If you think of where Newcastle United is now, it's a football club that's set up and is designed to be sold. So it runs almost on the bare minimum. Why would you invest in something if you're going to sell it? So it's set up now to be where it is in Mike Ashley's list of priorities, which is not very high. And what comes with that is that's a result of very bad decisions over a long period of time that has come to that. And the biggest mistakes there, we all know, was appointing the wrong people to advise and make decisions. People like Dennis Wise, for God's sake.
Wise, Jimenez.
And others. And those decisions have been made, and then almost that relationship and that is irreparable to a point. And I think there's a real thing around, I think I'd call it stewardship and good governance. Newcastle United operates on pretty much a skeleton business model with limited transparency and accountability. There's no functioning board. There's Lee Charnley's the only director. There's no non-executives. There's no proper management structure that you'd expect of a multi-million-pound business. And these owners are not just owners. They're not, just the proprietors of a business asset. They are custodians of assets that are of great importance to the lives of millions of people, millions of Newcastle fans in the communities and the economies that they serve. So we've been supportive of the work of the Football Supporters Association, and we've built on this in terms of the fan-led review with Tracy Crouch around the need for some sort of licensing of club owners and how clubs are run to be held to a minimum standard based on some sort of code of practice, looking at that and looking also at tests for owners being applied continuously.
Yeah, annually or something like that.
The owners and directors test is clearly not fit for purpose. The way the Premier League have dragged out our takeover is an absolute joke, while they've gone and approved Burnley's leveraged buyout overnight, and then that's not looking great at the moment. And there's a few other ones there. So we think that there's something there on that, but also on that, yes, minimum standards of governance, accountability, and transparency. And then to manage in the Premier League, you need to demonstrate your capability through a UEFA Pro license. So to run a football club and be the director of a football club, should you not have to demonstrate that you have the skills and experience to do that? And I think if you look at not only what's happened here in Newcastle, but what's happened at some of the lower league clubs, which has been, absolutely outrageous, that needs to change. And I think it is going to change with the fan-led review. We've had reviews before, but never one with this amount of interest, never one with this amount of appetite. And I think obviously that was in the Conservative Party manifesto that followed through on doing it. Tracy Crouch has put a name to it. I think it's clear that something's going to come there, whether that's independent regulator or golden share or more. But I think it's going to change. That fan-led review isn't going to just sit on the shelf. Something will change this time.
I hope so. Are you ready for the essay?
We can try. Can I make notes?
I'll try my best I'll try my best to read it all out correctly from Dean. He's very keen to get his point across and to get an answer to his question if he can, and hopefully you can help him, really. So the current chapter in our club's history is not already written. We as fans use the current situation between the club, the Premier League, and our takeover as a catalyst to bring a greater sense of unity. 97% of fans want the Saudi takeover. I think we all do, to be fair. In a poll I ran recently, which received 1,200 votes, almost 2/3 voted that they would support a peaceful and purposeful home protest against the Premier League's handling of the takeover. Only 6% said they would not. The 30% voted they didn't care anymore. This highlights the extent of apathy which, left unchecked, spreads like wildfire. I kind of agree with that. I feel like the Trust has an opportunity to stand with the majority, to have serious conversations about the various fan actions that could be taken, to communicate back to the fan base and offer something that gives the people something to unite around. So the question is, would the Trust be willing to set up a meeting and have a purposeful dialogue with myself about ideas and potential directions that the Trust, the fans and fan groups can work together on?
That is a very long and very good question.
It
I'm
is.
going to feel like Steve Bruce on BBC Radio Newcastle.
That was a good question. Don't start squirming.
No, absolutely not. So let's take the last point first. The Trust is always open to a member coming to us and having a conversation with an idea, and we'll look at it and we'll consider it. What we can't do is follow every tweet and respond to every tweet saying do something, protest. Get in touch, set up a conversation, and we'll talk to you about it. Now, I've been involved in more protests than I can remember. I have organised protests, as Billy knows very well, before I got involved with the Trust. I have been at the forefront of that protest movement. I'm now at a time where I'm not sure what a protest is going to achieve right now, I'll be honest. Other than and I'll never criticize anyone for protesting. I fundamentally believe in the right to protest. But Mike Ashley wants to sell the club. I think that's clear. He runs it like he wants to sell the club. Just look at the figures that came out on the financing of infrastructure. Compared, that's a business that is for sale and doesn't want to spend a penny. So I think he wants to sell. The takeover has been ongoing now for 19 or 20 months. We have two legal cases. One is the arbitration. The other is the Competition Appeals Tribunal case. That is involving effectively the best lawyers in the land, funded by very, very wealthy people. So Mike Ashley doesn't need money, and neither does the potential buyers. So what would a protest achieve now? And we had a protest called for the home game against West Ham, and that unfortunately didn't really take off. So I would more than happy have a debate and talk about it, but I don't see what it would achieve. And one thing that's regularly thrown at me is that the Man United fans protest got a lot of traction and a lot of media, and it stopped the ESL. Well, it got a lot of traction, it got a lot of media, and that was successful because it was organic out of pure anger. So nobody necessarily, anyone can protest. I don't think, from my personal view, that it would achieve a great deal. In my view, the ESL was stopped not because of the protest as much as they got the media attention. The ESL stopped was because the Prime Minister said, I'll legislate tomorrow to make it illegal for you to join. So there's no rolling back from that. So that's a very long-winded answer to say that in my view, personally, having been involved in more protests than I care to remember, having snuck banners in, those protests have done their job. Mike Ashley knows he's not wanted. He knows he wants to sell the club. They've done their job. They've achieved that. I'm not sure now what gathering outside the Gallagher end and shouting at the Premier League would achieve personally. But the Trust will always listen to its members. If you want to get in touch and have a conversation, I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
So Dean,
that's a good question here from Paul. He says, "Would you join a class action if asked?" And I assume he means the trust by that, not you personally.
So we've been asked this a lot this week as well, and we took legal action as a trust, and the legal action, the legal advice. We took legal advice, and the advice that we received was that we don't have standing to bring a claim. So that if we were to try and bring legal action or take legal action either against the Premier League, for example, or join a case, then it would be futile. That was the advice to us. You would spend a lot of money. You'd have no prospect of success. So, we listened to that advice. Still talking to that legal team, and if something does materialize that's possible, then we'll look at it. But our legal advice was pretty clear, that you don't, in the way the legal process works, you can't bring a claim because you're not an affected party effectively. Right.
Well, that's interesting, because there's a lot of people saying that why haven't the council got involved in like the local businesses around St James's Park? Why that? Because they're technically affected because they're losing out on revenue. Would that be a way of the trust getting involved with them and then taking it forward?
I don't really know enough about it. I'd have to go back and ask the probably ask the lawyers on that. But I think one of the issues, obviously, we've been promised a lot. There's been a lot spoken about, but it's very hard to demonstrate tangible loss, I think.
That's true.
So yeah, look, we will continue to call and lobby for change through all the legitimate channels that are available to the trust, including the government's fan-led review. But right now, this is very much in the hands of the lawyers with some very wealthy people on every side of it. Sad indictment of where modern football is, that we don't have a say, and I don't think sadly we just have to wait and see how that plays out now. That's my view. The trust has done a lot for this takeover. That's obviously often not portrayed on social media. That 97% statistic immediately changed the narrative of the takeover. That was a poll that we did because Newcastle fans were getting hammered left, right, and centre, saying that all sorts of nonsense about Saudi Arabia and others. And so we did that poll, we got that, and then the trust board was in media all over the world, basically standing up for Newcastle fans in the face of an onslaught. We even had TV crews coming over from Germany to interview Alex. I don't know how they got in because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We did that. We then also engaged a legal team. We engaged a legal team to write and lobby the Premier League in favour of the takeover. So we presented detailed legal analysis from a barrister saying you have no ability, there is no impediment to you approving this takeover. And that 97% of Newcastle fans want it. We're in dialogue with Amanda Staveley throughout this time as well, and via Alex, and we launched the transparency campaign at her almost request, and 8,000 letters to MPs and responses from the Prime Minister. More, we got this. We did a lot there, but right now, from what I can see, it's in the hands of the lawyers, and I don't see how we can influence that process. Sadly, that's crap. It shouldn't be like that. Fans should have a say on a takeover, a formal say through the process, but we don't. So we have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm worried about what happens to this football club if it doesn't go ahead.
I think we all are.
We're all worried about.
Mike Ashley's not interested.
Yeah. I think this is the sad situation that we're in, that a lot of us are now thinking we need to move away from the Saudis and we need to look for another investment because we don't know whether this one's going to go through. And like I said, if it doesn't go through, we're looking at Championship League One and doing a Sunderland, aren't we? So I guess what we really want to know is if you can shed any light on it, are the Saudis still at the table?
Well, as long as Amanda Staveley says they're there, we have to trust her and believe that they're there. Right. And she says that her and the consortium are committed to the deal. So that that's as far as I'm concerned. But let's let's see what happens. Sadly, it looks like it's going to take a long time. That's what legal processes are like. They take time, especially when the other party's trying to do things like the Premier League are, but equally, some of the delays have been caused by the Newcastle United side. So, who knows? But it's not a great place to be in, is it? As a football supporter, your football club should never be left in this position, full stop. And hopefully some form of intervention will come in the future that this can never happen again.
Jack, NUFC asked the question. Obviously, you got to meet Richard Masters in the meeting last year. Will you have the opportunity to meet him again?
I don't know.
And how did the meeting go?
There'll be Premier League network meetings, but I doubt we'll have that opportunity one-on-one almost to talk. Not one-on-one. It was in front of others, but the Newcastle takeover was the number one item on the agenda, which isn't normal for that meeting, and we got a good half an hour there. The Premier League aren't returning our letters or emails anymore, so it's safe to say that I doubt it. We'll still attend those meetings via the FSA, but we've written in a number of times with questions, additional questions, and we've not had those answered. So. That's another one of these fallacies that we protect the relationship with the Premier League. Well, let me tell you now, there isn't one. Premier League's not fit for purpose and is not fit to govern and regulate itself. Me saying that a lot and Alex saying that is probably one of the reasons why they're no longer taking our calls.
Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, I like to hear that though. At least you're actually fighting it. Like some people say that you're just trying to protect your image and their image, and obviously you're clearly not. And that's what we kind of want towards Mike Ashley, but then again, we need somebody inside those walls, don't we? It's so frustrating as a fan at the moment. It really is, and I feel everyone's pain, and I feel your pain as well, Greg.
It's frustrating, isn't it? Because the other thing frustrating, I think we actually have for the first, we have a nucleus actually of some pretty good players. Particularly the top end of the pitch, but we've got nothing. It's a championship side with better midfields than us. And that back three is just not good enough that we played at the weekend. Playing Kraft at third centre back, and Kieran Clark is a great squad player in the backup as well. But again, he's not a top quality Premier League player these days. As great as a servant he's been to us since he joined, and he will fill in a hole, I think, with an injury. And I think he's always dangerous from a corner as well when we're on the attack. But I think there's actually quite a lot of potential there to build on this and build on something. And Mike Ashley's wealth isn't that dissimilar to the wealth of the Leicester owners. And just look at the difference in the trajectory there. And Newcastle fans, we're not asking for him to put in a load of his own money. We're just asking for the club to compete and be ambitious and use its own money in the proper way. And we don't even get that now. It's clearly set up just to survive almost in the Premier League. Premier League's clearly the be all and end all of that, but it's gone wrong twice and we've gone down.
Oh yeah, could be a third time, couldn't it?
Third time.
Is there any dialogue between the trust and the club itself about anything?
Yes.
None whatsoever. There is.
Yeah. I had a 2-hour meeting with them earlier this week, and there'll be some more meetings from there. But we disagree on quite a lot of things. We'd like to think we can be a critical friend at some point, because we want a good relationship with a good football club. And I think it's really important as well to understand what a supporters trust is in that regard as well. And it is designed basically to do that. So we have a set of rules. So we're a formally constituted organisation. I am a registered director of the Newcastle United Supporters Society Limited, and those rules we have to obey. We have to comply with them, and one of them is to be democratic, be representative, and strengthen the bonds between the club and the fans. That's really hard.
That is very hard. Because if I was in the room with Lee Charney or Mike Ashley, they'd have black eyes.
You can't do it without talking to them.
Well, yeah, this is true.
And if I go into that meeting and just effing blind,
Shout. Yeah.
well, there won't be any more meetings. The trust's been banned before in the past. You know, the next one of our rules is around achieving the greatest possible supporter and community influence in the running and ownership of the club. Again, that's really, really hard. But equally, that's our mandate for the pledge scheme, and more. And the other two, just while I'm here, is three actually is promoting responsible and constructive engagement with the club and encouraging the club to do the same. We, as the trust, did a lot of work to revitalise and change how the fans forum worked over the last few years. Some of the people involved in the fans forum previously didn't like that, I think it's safe to say. But that was effectively set up in 2014 and was a hand-picked delegates to attend. The club failed to commit to meeting schedules itself. It didn't really run very well, and that last one was in 2018. We then worked with the club and with some others on a new structured dialogue process and fans focus groups. Unfortunately, the last proper meeting there was around about December 2019. But the club placed a lot of staff on furlough, and the operations were pretty much aimed at just keeping the playing side going and little else. So I'm hoping and very hopeful that dialogue with NUFC and with others, which is really important, actually. We're not the only people out there, and yes, we are democratically elected and we represent our members, but you know, there's some other great groups out there as well, in particularly NUSDA and United with Pride and a few others as well. So hopefully that'll start again soon. But you know, the last public comment from Lee Charnley was a radio statement in 2019. Other clubs managed to engage with their fans during the pandemic on Zoom. CEOs were on Zooms, Teams, you know. So hoping that improves, and we'll keep working to try and improve that side of things. But that's one of the harder elements of being involved with the trust.
Barry, did you want to ask the question about?
Yes, that's a good point. I did a typo that one. So Joe Willock obviously signed, amazing signing, blew all our budget, but very, very happy we got him. And then as soon as he joins, he's been targeted by racism, which is just absolutely disgraceful. What are the trusts doing to help the club and to help other clubs, the Premier League, to try and help kick racism out of football? And that would society in general. You know, are we in contact with, you know, things like the Twitter, Instagrams, you know, Facebook, all this sort of stuff, and saying, look, enough is enough? Yeah.
So we, in terms of, obviously that is absolutely disgusting for him to be subject to that abuse. And I think you need to be careful how you word it. He didn't say when I joined Newcastle, he said every day. So it wasn't a joining Newcastle and he got racial abuse, it was every day. Which is, I think, is an important clarification on behalf of Newcastle fans. But I think, you know, we also saw the taking of the knee, getting booed slightly before the West Ham game, and then that was replaced by applause. So we work very closely, and particularly with the Football Supporters Association and their various campaigns, and very close links there with Show Racism, the Red Card. I don't know if you guys know, but Show Racism, the Red Card started primarily by Shaka Hislop in Newcastle.
Right.
He was filling his car with petrol, and some young lads shouted some racist abuse at him. And then they realised it was the Newcastle goalie and asked him for his autograph. And that's genuinely, I think, how it started. And that was his trigger to realise that actually, in my privileged position as a footballer, I can do something and I can make a difference here and educate and stand up. And sadly, you know, that was what, 1996 probably.
A long time ago, yeah.
It's a long time ago. And I think, you know, I've often heard things at games. I think over the last few years it's got worse, which is terrible. But the taking, so yeah, we are involved in that. We're also involved with the foundation. Last year, you'll remember there was a social media blackout as well. So the club got in touch with us and said, you know, Supporters Trust, will you join us in that social media blackout for that weekend? And we said, yes, absolutely. And we joined that. I think on taking the knee, I think you have to understand why the players take the knee. And it's got nothing to do with some political movement in America.
Not
it's
at all.
because the players have said and have made it abundantly clear that it's about what it's about. And it's, booing, taking the knee is effectively booing anti-racism. And I think, hopefully we won't see that tomorrow. But the players have been very clear that why they're doing it. So we'll continue working. Hopefully, Newcastle as a city has a great history of being welcoming, being open, of everybody. Just look at the statue of Martin Luther King that's in Newcastle. There's not very many of those around the world. So come on, let's make sure that we all stand up to this absolute nonsense that has no place in our society, let alone football.
Well said. Well said, Greg.
Awesome.
Do you two recognise each other from the cricket pitch? I was going to ask.
Yes, I was going to ask that. I used to play cricket for Whitley Bay.
Really?
Did you ever play against them?
Yes, once or twice. Yeah.
Who for?
Occasionally we'll have been in the midweek league.
Right, yeah.
For a team called CCC.
Yeah, I played against them. Sure.
Before that, in terms of weekend cricket, I played when I was younger at South North. So for a bit.
Well, I'm playing South North.
But,
It was more Whitley Bay, Monk Seaton, Stobbswood, all them sort of those grounds.
Yeah.
I thought I might have.
There, just next to the ice rink.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Probably played against you. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Interesting ground. I nearly got into a bit of it's one of the most interesting cricket. You always remember things from certain cricket grounds. I nearly got into a fight with the groundsman, I think, once. I'm
trying to think who there was some strange groundsmen at our ground.
Basically, I'd been batting with my brother. And I'd come in, he'd been opening, and I'd come in. And he was going really well. I think he got a 50 or 60 odd, batting quite well. I got a duck. And as I walked off, this guy comes up to me and starts congratulating me on how well I'd batted and thought I was excellent and all of this. And I just thought he was completely taking the piss. So I told him to fuck off. And he didn't take it very well. And he got me and my brother confused with each other. So you remember those types of incidents. It was a bit tense.
Yeah. I mean, Whitley Bay is a great ground. It's just in the wrong area, really, because it's in a nice bowl. And,
it's right, down in the bowl.
Yeah, it's lovely. I used to love playing. Played there from the age of 14 till I was 26. Loved it. Then my back gave away. Couldn't bowl anymore, so I had to quit, unfortunately. To be fair, though, I went to Australia to watch the Ashes when we got stuffed 5-0, and I decided to play a couple of games over there, and the standard is just unbelievable over there. And I'd been on the drink, got here at 4 o'clock in the morning, rocked up to this cricket ground, AstroTurf pitch and that, and this 14-year-old kid walked into bat, and I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. This man, look at him, he's tiny. So I ran in, ball the bouncer, 6. Smashed me all over, and I went, that's it, I'm done.
Cricket's one of those funny things with a hangover. You either can or you can't. So my brother can. I've seen him score hundreds after a night on the beer. I can't. I am terrible with a hangover. I just can't do it.
I used to be good until I hit a certain age, and that was it. I think it was about 24. I think that was the end of my career as a bowler and drinking at the same time. So terrible. I loved it. Great times playing cricket. Yeah. But yeah, obviously, how long have you got, Greg? You said a half an hour, and we've gone a bit over that. Have you still got a bit more time?
However, until he kicks us off.
Happy days.
He could be through about 4 bottles of wine by then.
I've only got one glass in the other room.
So let's have a little talk about the game coming up at the weekend. I think that's always a nice little discussion, because me and Billy have talked about it quite a bit. Steve Bruce's press conferences and his little stint on BBC radio was terrible, wasn't it? He's come out with some crackers again. There's no injury concerns, and then there's loads of injury concerns.
Yeah. You know what? I can't criticise him for some of the things he said, but I can for others. Yeah. So the absolute classic, right, was you've got to remember Joe's only 24. It was his 25th birthday last week.
And he didn't play, but he actually brought him on.
and that. I can't criticize him too much for that. Because I'll tell you one thing on that, and people might not like me saying this. If Bobby Robson had said that, we'd have all thought it was absolutely hilarious.
Wow.
You know,
he was losing his marbles a little bit when he got a bit older, though. Steve Bruce hasn't got that excuse.
So I guess he had more in the bank there. So I can't blame him. But I think my biggest issue actually is the fact that he doesn't understand some of the things that he's saying.
Yes.
So the question around why do you belittle us as a football club all the time? And I think that was a really good question, and I think that's probably never been said because I think he was a bit taken aback by that question. Yeah. But even in the interview, he was talking about the big clubs this, the big clubs that.
Yeah.
You're in a big
but his answer was quite telling. He said, "I wasn't aware I was doing it."
Yeah.
And I'll look into it.
Yeah. So
I mean, at every club he's been at, though, hasn't he? So it's just it's in his mould, isn't it? He's used to being at smaller clubs. No offense.
It's all about lowering expectations, isn't it?
I think so, and I think he's came here on the back of, as much as we loved him, and I would take him back in a heartbeat, and I love him to bits. Rafa, who was the master, he was the master at talking to the press, and we've got the opposite here. We've got a bloke who just says what he thinks, no matter what, basically. But yeah, I think it was there was a couple of good questions in there, and I think he handled it as you'd probably expect. I think, but look, we just he should never have got the. In my opinion, he should never have been appointed in the first place. But that is where we are as a football club, unfortunately. Who would take the job?
Well, this is it. I mean, we've had this many conversations on other podcasts. The Four Horsemen on a Monday night. We've all asked the questions near the end of last season when things were going pear-shaped. Who would we take? And I always said, well, who would come? Now, I always said I wouldn't mind the Brentford manager while he was in the Championship because we might have been able to convince him to come to the Premier League. But now he's there and he's looking good. Graham Potter at Brighton, I think he's an absolute fantastic manager. And then you've got Eddie Howe, who's still out of work. I mean, but would he touch Newcastle with a Mike Ashley ownership and a very small budget?
Yeah,
they're the three that potentially could maybe want to manage us, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I don't know. I think.
Would you take Pardew back, Greg?
No. No.
Pardew or Bruce?
Bruce, he might come out with some pretty condescending things, but he doesn't talk as much guff as Pardew. And Pardew's probably, through gritted teeth, I'll say that Pardew's probably a better manager, but I wouldn't take him back.
He had our best season under Ashley, though, hasn't he? Finishing 5th that year, and that's when it all went pear-shaped after that, wasn't it?
Yep. Well,
I'll tell you another name that
I've under Ashley, but that was the biggest one with that where we could have pushed on.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
And even then, I mean, Chris Hughton should never have got sacked. That was an absolute disgraceful decision as well.
No, he shouldn't have. He shouldn't. Yeah. But no, I wouldn't take him back. I think that would be horrific.
I'll tell you what, I'll throw a name in the hat that I did on the Four Horsemen, and it's well out right field. But Steve Watson.
Wow. He's done a
That's
good job.
right field, left field, centre field.
Well, Steve Watson scored the first ever goal I saw away from home in an away end. So there's a fond memory in my heart, which was, funnily enough, at Highfield Road.
I saw the goal. Yeah, I remember that goal.
In a 1-0 win. I was quite young.
Sunday afternoon.
I remember being quite taken aback by the state of the toilets at Highfield Road. But,
I hadn't been in there.
Which was basically a wall. But I was just a little kid. That was my first away game. My dad took us down. I remember it well. But he's done quite well, hasn't he? At Gateshead,
York,
and at York. I think that would be quite a jump.
Yeah, it would be
quite a jump. But yeah, hopefully he continues building and progressing because he was a great player for us. Should never probably have sold him in 1998. He's
I agree.
Yeah.
Could play everywhere, couldn't he? I mean, I remember that goal at Anfield in the Carling Cup.
Was that the League Cup game, was it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
League
yeah.
Cup game, Carling Cup, whatever it was called back in the day.
Edge of the box, and then that was magnificent.
Left foot, top corner. It was beautiful.
And you can't forget his throw-ins either.
No.
I remember that throw-in. It was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It went in. What do you think the score will be on Saturday? Now, I've heard Wilson hasn't trained.
I don't like doing predictions.
Do you not?
And I gave one to the Chronicle actually before the West Ham game, and I obviously somehow I was overcome with some gushing optimism, and I looked for a 2 or 3-0 win, and how wrong could that be there? So I'm hopeful actually that we can get a win on the counter attack. But particularly if Wilson's not playing, I'd be worried. But I think if we can, there's a chance there. Villa obviously didn't get the result they wanted on the opening day. They're not great, Villa. They've done all right last season, obviously, with Jack Grealish pulling the strings, but they're not a top side, and they're definitely beatable. But then everyone will probably say that about us.
Are you going?
Yeah. Getting the train up in the morning. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Amazing. Going back to the trust side of things, you mentioned you're going to get all the board members together and talk about what the year ahead is going to look like. Do you have a vision yourself of what the year ahead is going to look like and how you want to put your ideas across, as well as listening to other people's ideas? Do you have your way of doing things?
Yes. I think there's a number of strands to this. So I think first and foremost, we have to continue to build on what we've been doing. But one of our number one priorities, I think, is to get offline. So get off Twitter, get off Facebook. That's probably the wrong phrase, actually. It's not get off. We'll probably continue to do all of those things, but we need to build the trust away from social media. We need a presence on a match day. We need our name and our logo and our purpose all over Newcastle, which we don't have at the moment. Very much online focus. So I think that's really, really important to keep building, because we get accused a lot of just wanting more members. I'll always want more members for the trust, because if you go and speak to somebody and say I'm backed by 20,000 members, you have more influence than if you go and speak to someone and say I represent 5 people. That's simply a fact of life. And that's why we've reduced the membership fees. So it's £1 to join, it's £1 per year for your membership fees. And if you're listening, lots of members will be getting their reminders to pay their £1. So don't be stingy. Pretty soon. So I think we need to do that. I think we'll continue to campaign and support and call for legislative change in football, so that it's reorganised to operate in the best interests of fans. I think that's really, really, really important. There's other things that we do we'll keep doing. So working with other trusts in the FSA on things like that. We'll continue to call out and work with and try to influence TV fixture timing. Newcastle away games, Monday nights, 14 or 15 times. Thomas will have the stats. Disgusted. Fans are the last piece of the jigsaw who are affected the most by that. So we'll do that. We'll keep supporting the campaign for safe standing. I think that's something that we've talked about a lot. It's probably quite down there in the list of priorities when you have a club that's run like ours. But, Arsenal, I think, Man United, Chelsea, and a few others have installed them. 5 weeks ago, I got injured at a football match, and I'm still not fully recovered now. Thanks to Luke Shaw scoring in the fourth minute or whatever it was. I was at the final there.
Yeah, fourth minute, I think it
I
was.
got my leg trapped in the seat in front and went head over, half over tit, landed on my back. Ended up with a hematoma in my right leg that got infected. If we had safe standing, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It's a fact. If we'd had legalized standing, that wouldn't have happened. So I'm even more in favour of it now after that.
Yeah, I bet. It's a difficult one, I think, with safe standing, just to quickly jump in on it, is that if you're taking kids to a game as well, you know, they're not as tall, the views are going to be restricted. You know, how do you...
Be everywhere. It wouldn't be everywhere.
Yeah.
So you have areas. You have areas for it, I think. That's the way you do it, I think. Definitely. But yeah, I agree. I mean, even now, sometimes at away games, I'm only 5'8", and you get to an away game and you stood behind someone who's 6'7". You're like, oh God, here we go again.
Yeah,
just trying to watch it. It's like, dear God.
Sometimes that's beneficial watching Bruce Ball.
But I think there's some of them. But there'll be other things, and the new board members have come in, and they've all got loads of really good ideas. Lots of fresh ideas as well. So and that's why we upped the board to a bigger board. And I think what we want to do, we're going to have a look at. I think one of the things that we should do is have a real look at, you know, put it out there. What do we think Newcastle United should look like? And be quite clear by that, and almost differentiate between what the owners now and what the owners of a good Newcastle United would be, and to give that what if we could have a club that we could be proud of, what would it look like, and to set that out. And I think, you know, we can set out our vision, our priorities, and make that public, and then set out a strategy for how we're going to achieve it. So that's what we're all working on right now.
That's very important, because I mean, we're lucky enough to have seen a club that we were proud of. Children that are 14 and younger haven't, and it's something they've got to look. You know, they've got to have a future where they feel proud of the club, and I think it's an important part of the trust work. That is, excellent.
I think that's really, really important. I was lucky. You know, I grew up in Newcastle on Keegan's Entertainers. When I first got to know football, then as I was coming into my late teenage years, probably watching Champions League nights. Just as I was discovering that I could go to the pub, that was quite nice. But when you reflect and look back, I was spoiled rotten.
Yeah, that's what my dad said to me as well.
Yeah, my brother has. I remember. I mean, his son now is absolutely Newcastle United mad. But he wanted to support Spurs a few years ago because of Harry Kane, because he never got to see Newcastle really on the telly or anything. But he knew who Harry Kane was to England, and my brother had to have a word and say that is not allowed, and he cannot support Tottenham. That is forbidden. But you know, you do see a lot of other team shirts now up in the northeast, and it shouldn't be that way. And even when I was back home last weekend, he was saying to me, people are saying we might only finish 17th, and that would be a good season. What do you think of that? And you know, an 8-year-old saying that to you. I mean, I feel for these guys, man, when they haven't experienced what we did. So really important, really important.
Brilliant.
Yes, I mean, if we've been asked this question quite a lot, you know, what do you expect from your club? Especially I work in York. I live in York now. There's a lot of Leeds fans, Man United fans, Liverpool fans, a couple of Newcastle fans. I'm one of them. There's not many of us. But they all say, you know, what do you expect from your football club now? You're not a big club anymore, which technically we're not. We're a sleeping giant in my eyes. And I said, look, I mean, we're being linked with these Saudis. They could be the richest people in the world and make us the next Man City. That would be great. But that's not my aim as a fan to happen. My aim is to be able to go to games, be excited about going to the game again, actually going back, because I boycotted when Rafa left. I'm actually going back next weekend, and I'm disgusted with myself. But my vision for Newcastle now is to be a Leicester or Wolves, or a club that's well run. Invest the money in the right areas, training pitches, the youth, bringing in the selling the big player at the time. Yes, it's going to happen because we're not a Man United or a Man City. We can't keep a hold of them all the time. But when that big sale happens, it's reinvested in the right players. Leicester did it perfectly, didn't they? They sold that numpty to Man United and then invested all that money in a brand new, spanking, beautiful training facilities. And yet our players are dipping in green wheelie bins for ice baths. And that just says to me where we are as a football club, where a League One side has probably got better facilities than a Premier League club. And all I want to see is us compete a little bit, maybe get to a Carling Cup final and maybe win it. Not the league, not the FA Cup, just that little bit of glimmer of hope.
well, what you've explained is hitting the nail on the head. And topically enough, it was at Leicester. We had a banner a few years ago. Yeah. That picture is everywhere, and it says, "We don't demand a team that wins. We demand a club that tries." And they're two very different things. And some of the press didn't pick that up and thought it was about winning. It's not about winning. It's about having a club to believe in, a club that strives to be the best that it can be, that strives for sporting excellence and excellence in everything it does. And we haven't had that for quite a long time. I was quite proud to say that I smuggled that banner into the ground with another couple of lads. I say smuggled. It was a very smooth operation with some assistance of some very fine people. But, we want a club to be proud of. And we've had dangled in front of us the ultimate in modern football, which is to be able to compete with the very, very best. Yeah. And let's hope we still get that. But if someone could come along tomorrow and take it over and give us that pride back and run it properly and successfully and take it forward, I'd bite the hands off because that's what we need.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, if the SHIB crypto community can get SHIB to 10p a share, I'll have 650 million and I'll buy the club. It just needs to get to 10p, guys, just 10p, and I'm 650 million pound rich, and it won't be my money. I'll put it, I'll keep 5 million for myself so I can live all right, and then I'll buy Newcastle and plough it all in. So yeah, exactly. Get to an XRP, do it, get it up there, and I'll buy Newcastle United Football Club. Right. To be honest with you, mate, Greg, we only really prepared for 30 minutes and we're gone up to about an hour. Billy, is there any more questions you want to ask? Because I'm
no, Greg's answered everything perfectly,
yes,
and it's been a pleasure having him on the channel and the show, and we'd love to get back on again.
No, thanks for the invite. Absolutely. When you reached out and sent us a text the other day, Billy, I thought it was the least I could do. Like I said, after the story of kipping on your sofa. When I was I wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been sleeping in the train station. I would have been sleeping in the car, which probably would have been worse. So the least I could do.
Brilliant.
I've done that once. When was it? Millennium Stadium. Me and two mates, we went down the night before the FA Cup semi-final against Man United. Got absolutely hammered. Parked in a car park beforehand. Went back to the car, slept in it. Woke up full of Geordies. Thank God we picked the right car park because we could have been in the Man United one. Jesus, close call, I'm telling you.
And then we got absolutely hammered again.
I was at that one. That was a hell of an atmosphere.
It was, wasn't it?
Didn't turn up. But
blocked the Man United bus on the way in.
we went out in Swindon the night before. And, I remember it very well. It wasn't the most hospitable place to Newcastle fans. Bouncers didn't like us. Good night was had.
Loved us in Wales. It was good. We've got coming up on the show in the future. We've got Graham Bell coming on. You obviously know him very well, Greg, another member of the trust who's got his own ideas and he wants to come on and have a chat with us. I'm looking forward to that. Greg, would you be open to coming on again once you've had your meetings and got the trust's manifesto, I guess is the best thing to call it, and happy to talk us through it?
Absolutely.
Amazing. You just have to let us know when that is.
Well,
fantastic.
Keep keep an eye on what's coming out of the trust, and then yeah, have a chat.
Yeah, I get my emails, so I'm a lifelong member, so I will keep an eye out, and then as soon as I see it, I'll ping you.
Excellent.
I love it. Well, thanks for coming on, Greg. I really, really appreciate it. I'll just pop these in the background, and I'll be 2 seconds to finish the show off.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Great show, great guy. First time I've met Greg myself. You know, put a great show on there. Answered some very difficult questions. Very, very, very well. Come across very well. You know, if you're not a member of the trust, now's the time to do it. There's obviously big plans for the future. You know, try and get involved in the pledge if you can as well. Because like I say, if the money's not needed for the club, it will go to all those charities around the Northeast who need it. Probably the food bank as well. I'm sure they'll get a slice of the action because they do great work on a match day. So yeah, please everyone, do your best, get involved with the trust. If you've got any questions or concerns or anything, you know, all the members of the board of the trust are on Twitter, they're on Facebook, and they're open to your messages. If you just want to drop them a quick question, they will answer you as quickly as they can. But be mindful, they might have quite a lot of questions, and there won't be, you know, 10 seconds answers. It might take a day or two to get back to you, but they will get back to you. And I can vouch for that because Graham did the same thing for me on Twitter. I dropped him a message, and within 30 minutes to an hour, he replied to me. So it's testament to them that they do what they say. So yeah, it's been a great show. Thanks for watching The World of Sport, and we'll see you in the next few coming days. I'll be doing a video on Saturday for the match review. Hopefully 3 points or a point, I'll take right now. And then on Tuesday night, Billy will be with Craig and hopefully another guest going through all the Premier League roundup. So other than that, good night, guys.